Good morning. Hello if you're watching live, and hello if you're watching the replay. I'm Maddie Harvey of Maddie Harvey Designs, and I'm a knitwear designer and knitting teacher based in Edinburgh, where we had lots of snow. It's very cold this morning. I think it's been really cold overnight, so I've got lots of woolies on. So I produce knitting patterns, knitting kits and online events to help knitters develop their creativity and confidence. And this is my weekly video, which I call Knits and Cake for Breakfast. So the idea behind that is that before coronavirus, I was hosting a weekly knit night that I would always do baking for on a Wednesday night. And then on a Thursday morning, I would eat some of the leftover baking for my breakfast. So today I've got a cookie, not massively exciting, except that this is one of my cookies that I made last month, and I got a recipe book for my Christmas called The Batch Lady, which is all about batch cooking and then freezing things. So the cookie recipe, you made a big sausage of cookie dough, and then you put it in your freezer, and when you want to bake some of the cookies, you just cut some slices off. So this is the last of it, and actually cutting the cookie dough when it's frozen is really hard. Like, I had to get my big bread knife out and fill up a container with boiling water and keep dipping it in between slices. It was really quite a workout. So because this was the last of the dough, I just took it out of the freezer when I put the oven on to heat up this morning, and then by the time the oven had got to the right temperature, the cookie dough had softened enough that I could cut it and it still kept its shape, and then they just went in. So they are white chocolate chip, and they've got oats in them too. So so it's been quite nice to have that roll of cookie dough in the freezer, and we've had it cut off some slices and then had them with ice cream, like a cookie ice cream sandwich, which has been very good. So I think I'll make that again, and it's one of these recipes where you can change out the chocolate chips. You could put something else in. So that's what I've been baking this morning, and I've got my cup of coffee. So the idea of these videos is that I share what I've been baking this week. I talk you through some of my what I've been working on, some kind of behind the scenes stuff, and then I'll also give you some little tips or tricks. So this week I'm going to show you about how to take back your knitting if you've made a mistake more than one row at a time. So I'll do that at the end. So I thought I would share what I'm wearing first of all. Actually, I'm looking down here because I'm surrounded by little piles of things that I've got to show you. So this cowl is the Bambara cowl. This is a new pattern. It's not come out yet, but this is what's going in the goodie bags for my online knit retreat, which is happening at the end of the month. So the yarn is from Whistlebear Yarns. So this is my prototype one. This is my actual sample that's been done by my lovely sample knitter Debbie. It needs to just be finished off, but I've been blocking this week. And the retreat attendees are going to get the pattern and the yarn for this in their goodie bags. And then obviously Alice from Whistlebear Yarns is going to be joining us at the knit retreat and giving us a tour of the farm, and we'll have a Q&A session with her, and I'll show you some of the techniques involved in making the cowl. So once that's happened, the pattern will be released just as a standalone pattern. So yeah, their sample is a little bit smaller than my one that I'm wearing, just because of the yarn, the size of the mini skeins, to make the most of it and not run out. So that'll be coming at the end of the month, but as I say, the knit retreat people will be getting that in their goodie bag. So I need to finish sewing that one up, and then a couple of new garment designs I've been working on. This one that's hanging up here, which I'm calling Clutie at the moment. I started a sample. In fact, I've started it several times. in this gorgeous, quite bright yellow, which is really lovely and cheery for just now. So it's a yoked top-down jumper, and I am using mini skeins from Botanical Yarn, held with some mohair lace. So I'll just bend down and pick up these balls of yarn. So I'm actually striping. So I've got 2 balls of mohair, and I did have 2 different mini skeins, but I've just got to the point where I need to swap one out for the next one. So one mini skein has run out, and the other one, I've got this much. Now, I'm actually going to rip all this out, because what I really wanted was for the point where you change, where you bring in the next mini skein to happen when this one was about halfway through, and you can see that hasn't happened. I've probably only got enough there for another round or maybe 2 rounds, and this one's run out and I need to join in the next one. So I'm going to have to take all this out and recalculate the yarn amounts. You can't really see the stripes in here because the 2 skeins were very closely matched. You might be able to see on that side a little bit. One had a more of a grey background than the other one. Yeah, so everything was going quite nicely until I realised that the amounts of yarn being used up between the 2 sets was not quite how I wanted it to go. So that's just part of what happens when you're creating knitting patterns. So I'll need to take that out and redo it. But at least I wasn't further on, I suppose. And then the other thing that some of you might have seen this on my stories, I've been sort of trying a bit more of an organised approach to jumper and sweater design. So this is a little swatch that I have worked up. Now what I'm not showing you, well, I could show you some of them, but there's been a lot of swatches before this one, which is more of a final kind of swatch of some of the elements. So this is a sort of showing the neckline a bit. This is a little feature that I'm thinking about for the neckline. And then this is the hem of the sweater. So the swatch shows you some of those elements there. I was just trying them out. So yeah, so that is a swatch just of the motif by itself. And this one was the first swatch of the kind of neckline, where it didn't quite come out how I wanted it to. You see the difference there. So this bottom one is more how I wanted it. So, oh, thank you, Amy. She's saying it's so pretty. That's kind of you. And there's a whole other pile of swatches that it's taken to get to this point. And so now I'm just swatching. I'm doing a big swatch in the stocking stitch next, and then I'll do a big swatch with the motif so that I can get the gauge. And then I'll do a mini jumper just to test out some of the construction, because you know this is knitted flat and most of the jumper will be knitted in the round, so I just need to check some things that they work. And doing a mini jumper is a better way of doing it than knitting a whole thing and then realising something doesn't work. Although having said that, I've just shown you that yellow jumper and that needs to come out. So even if you have done all that beforehand, which I did do with that, and you've done the maths, sometimes it still doesn't quite come out how you were expecting it to. So yeah, so that one, hopefully this one will be an autumn pattern. It hasn't got a name yet, but I'm sure that will come at some point. So that's everything that I've been working on, and I wanted to show you a technique for if you need to go back in your knitting rather than taking it off the needles completely. So I'm just going to swivel my camera around to show you, point you down to my desk so that I can actually show you the techniques. I've got some stitches set up, so I will just bring you down here and then I will turn my camera over and then I'll just bring my stand in. So I've cast on some stitches onto my big 10mm needles, and I've knitted a few rows just in stocking stitch. There we go. Okay, so now I just wanted to say something before I start showing you this, because this technique of undoing your knitting while it's on the needles is often called using the word knit backwards. And yesterday somebody let me know that this word is actually offensive to the travelling community, especially in the UK. So I'd like to apologise for using that word in the past. I won't be calling it that anymore. And I've linked to an article from the Traveller's Times in my Instagram profile, or in my pinned post on Facebook, or you'll find it in the description if you're watching on YouTube later, that explains why that word is offensive. So I'd encourage you to go and have a look at it and have a read. Okay, so I'm going to undo this knitting. Now, usually if you were undoing it a row at a time, you know, you would go to the one underneath and you would move it across and undo the last stitch from the last row. But what you can actually do is you can go further back and undo more than one row at a time. So I'm going to go, now I've just made that more complicated because those stitches came undone and I've just worked them back up as a knit stitch, but never mind. Okay, I'm going to go to, let's say, the third row down here. So this is the row I want to undo first. Then I've got this one, and then I've got this third row down. Okay, so I'm going to put my needle through the first stitch there in the first sort of column, and I'm putting it 3 stitches down. So I'm just going to pull that out, and actually I can see there I need to go one further down. Okay, so now I've got this strand here undone, which is attached to my working yarn. And then I've got this strand here, which is from the second row down. So I'm just going to go into that stitch there, which is 1, 2, 3 down, and pull off the top stitch and pull off the second stitch like that. Okay, now it does look a bit alarming because you've got this bit attached to your working yarn and then you've got this big loop. But as you go along, you'll see how it works itself out. So I'm going to go to the third one down and put my needle through, pull all that off and undo it. And it won't go anywhere because I've already put my right hand needle through the stitch. So I'll put my stitch through the third, put my needle through the third stitch down, take this off and pull it undone. So third stitch down, take it off and pull them out. It's going a bit in and out of focus. Let's see if that's better now. So put your needle in, take them off, pull them out, and as you get a bit more into the rhythm of it, you can start to kind of get a bit more efficient. So sometimes I like to hold the 2 strands with my finger, then I can just pull them out. So go into that same row and just keep checking that you're undoing the same row. You can see there that this is attached to this one here. So I know I'm not undoing any more or less. So just keep going along. I want to get to the end so that I can show you what happens at the end and how the yarn is all connected. And this works well if you've made a mistake, like say you're knitting a sleeve or something and you've made a mistake, you've forgotten to do a decrease or an increase or something and you want to go back. You can do it in the round as well. Right, so here I'm at the end. So if I undo this last stitch, I'll just turn it around so I can show you. Now, did you see that? All that yarn is connected. So you don't need to cut it, you don't need to do anything, it's all connected up. So you're just undoing more than one row at a time, and it just makes it a lot quicker if you're having to go back like that, and you don't have to take it off your needles. So hopefully that's helped. If you do have to take out some knitting, it's not too traumatic. And I'll be back next Thursday with some more tips. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.